UFC 100 was the biggest event in the sport's history up to that point. But what exactly happened on that fateful night in July of 2009? Let's have a little find out. Taking place at the Mandalay Bay Event Center in Las Vegas, UFC 100 had a gate of just over 5 million and grossed 1.6 million pay-per-view buys. A company record that stood all the way up until the rematch between Conor and Diaz at UFC 202. And even on this very day, it's still the 8th highest grossed UFC event of all time. The card was absolutely filled with talent from top to bottom. Some of that era and also some of the brightest stars of the next era. So let's have a little look through that. Jim Miller made his fourth out of 41, bloody hell that's a lot, UFC fights against Mac Danzig on the prelims, and got a decent little decision win coming off a loss against Gray Maynard in his previous fight. UFC 100's prelims also featured the third bout in Jon Jones' UFC career. This was just after he beat Stephan Bonnar and just before the Matt Hamill 12-6 situation. Jonesy would go on to be one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time and have absolutely no issues with the law at any point in his life. Also on the prelims was Mark Coleman, the legend of MMA, the godfather of ground and pound. He was fighting Stephan Bonnar, who just lost to Jones but was higher on the... Anyway, the Smashing Machine would roll back the years with his classic wrestling style and get a unanimous decision victory, and that would turn out to be his final win with the promotion. Then we moved up to the main card with what turned out to be fight of the night and one of the fights of the year, the debut of Japanese legend Sexyama against Alan Belcher. These two went to war and earned every single fucking penny of that bonus. Unfortunately for Sexyama, he'd only win one of his next 6 in the UFC, so... debut was good, the rest not quite so good, if I'm honest. By this time things were getting a bit spicy and the crowd were anticipating the next fight. What do you do in a time like this? Who do you call? Jon Fitch, apparently, who gave a cheeky 15-minute cuddle to Paulo Thiago. Great stuff, Jono, well done, thanks for ruining the card. Only joking, Fitchy, me old son, it was a very dominant performance from him. And then shit got real. We got to the feature bout between Michael Bisping and Dan Henderson, who had just been coaching the 9th season of The Ultimate Fighter. But come on, Hendo was nearly 40 by this point and had already been smashed by champion Anderson Silva. There was no way this old bloke could knock out... Oh, okay, well, maybe I was fucking wrong. Bloody hell, that's CTE for you though, look at that, Christ on a bike, fuck me. The co-main event and the first of 2 title fights was for the welterweight title when George St. Pierre fought Thiago Alves. The nutty little Brazilian was coming off wins over the legend Matt Hughes and the irritating little pillock Josh Koscheck. But George proved to be just a little bit too much for Thiago on that night as he extended his welterweight title defence streak to 3. And then we moved on to the main event, the rematch, the biggest fight in the sport up to that point, between Brock Lesnar and Frank Mir. Their first fight took place at UFC 81 in Brock's promotional debut. Some debut that, by the way. Anyway, Frankie Boy would go on to win the interim title against Big Nog at UFC 92, and one pay-per-view before, Brocky Boy beat the 117-year-old Randy Couture to win the actual title. Their second fight would go very similarly to their first, but this time Frank could not find the Hail Mary submission, leading to a TKO win for Brock in the second round via his absolutely bloody massive wheelbarrow hands. Brock then apparently went home, spent some time with his wife and drank a beer that does not sponsor the UFC. And there you have it, that was me recap of UFC 100. What an event it was, a massive moment in UFC history. I feel like I've earned a like and a subscribe for this video because I had to sit through 15 minutes of Jon Fitch fighting. Cheers!